Yeah.
about accepting people for who they are, and I kind of mentioned in the workspace. So I see that you previously worked in the corporate America like spectrum of industry. And so how
Did
was that
I?
for you? So you worked in the food industry in corporate America. How was that? And really what made you want to transition into entrepreneurship?
Um, Working, I mean, it had its pros and cons. I gotta say, my business background, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I worked at several businesses. I worked for Allstate Insurance Company when I first got out of college. Then I moved on to do several other things, but where I landed was McDonald's Corporation, and that's where I'll start and talk a little bit about that. I got to say that it was tough or whatever because you deal with the public, you're dealing with the politics of being in corporate. It was good and bad. It taught me, I think, my toughness, my just my business sense and how to actually run a business and operate a business. Because as a manager, you're there from giddy up to whoa, and you're learning every aspect from how the inventory runs to running a P&L to making how do you get a return on your investment. So I really got my feet wet because they pretty much you're running the show. You're dealing with people, you're hiring people, you're terminating people. You hate to do that, but I want to say that it gave me a basis for business. It brought everything that I had learned into school into perspective, and I
Right.
was able to apply it there. So I don't want to just bam out there and say, oh, corporate America is whatever, because it did teach me some great things. And
Right.
I got some, I moved through the system extremely fast, which was good for me. But speaking to what we're talking about, sometimes you're in a room with your peers, white males, and just everybody. And I found that you really had to put on that poker face, like, you're saying that you got to fit in and you got to do that. So that was kind of tough for me because, I'm one that want to be myself. I want to be able to talk about and act the way I want to act. So you can't totally do that if you want to progress, because if you like really honestly, if you want to just do whatever you want or act whatever if you just act in yourself, there's a chance that somebody may not take that good, and then they may be controlling your destiny, meaning that they can put the check on your paper and say whether or not you're going to move forward. So it has its pros and cons, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because it really did give me a basic business sense.
I definitely can agree to that as a person who is working in a corporate setting now, and then I have my own entrepreneurship ventures that I'm doing in my personal time. I can
Mm-hmm.
attest to saying that the technical training that I'm learning at work is really directly
Mm-hmm.
helping me with my, entrepreneurship ventures as far as public speaking, as far as organizing things. Like when I hear people say just automatically, just quit your job, just be an entrepreneur, it's like you need the plan B. Make sure you have the money to quit your job. Like, don't just
Mm-hmm.
follow that whole
Yes.
dream, that you can just quit your job and become a billionaire overnight. Like, I definitely don't tell people just quit your job because that's not realistic.
Mm-mm, not at all. And I don't think I answered the second part of your question, but with all of that, there was at one point being in the QSR industry, I was on the franchising side dealing with franchisees, and I would go. The team that reported into me, we went into stores and we graded the store, and just told them all about their operations and left them with a checklist on what can help them do better, ultimately turning it into profit, right?
Hmm.
So I guess I came to the conclusion that I'm doing all of this for other people. I've always wanted to, have my own thing. I'm like, I need to make a plan and work my plan. Like you said, don't just walk off your job. I mean, because you do in the interim got to eat.
Right.
So we are like 100% on the same page with that. But you have to make a plan. You have to save. You have to just have a strategy, and that's what I did. I said, you know what, I'm going to do this until it works and works for me, and it's time for me to move. I'm going to gather all the information and learn everything that I can, good and bad. You learn. Everything is a learning, whether you good, bad, or indifferent. It teaches you what you can do, what you should not do, and some things that it may be gray area. You decide which way that you want to go, but from that, learning all of that, it caused me to want to do my own thing, and that's what and I just did it.
So how did you get started? Like, what was the first steps? Did you start your LLC, and then we're gonna discuss your fashion line in the book and also your other organizations, but how did you
Okay.
start from that point of saying, "Hey, I want more for myself"?
Well, here's what was the great thing. I worked for the QSR industry, and during some of my reviews, they would ask you. They always ask you, "What are your 5-year goals?" That's a
Right.
corporate question. What are your 5-year goals? I'm like, okay. Well, let me tell you. So, I made it known that I originally wanted to be a franchisee in the QSR industry. I actually had the opportunity to become a QSR industry franchisee. Number one, for McDonald's, once I left, I went back and I interviewed or whatever else. They had a 5-year waiting list for me to stay in Chicago. I could have moved away and became one, but I didn't want to leave the Windy City. So that was out the window. When I was with, I worked for several QSR industries. McDonald's was the first one. I got hired to go to Mrs. Fields as a regional vice president. And I worked there for like 2 or 3 years. And the young lady that hired me got hired over to Burger King Corporation as a VP, and she took me with her. And so I went over to Burger King and did my thing, and was a director and everything. And so I made it known there that I wanted to eventually become a franchisee. So they had an opportunity to arise where I guess these Japanese guys were looking to invest in someone, and they asked me, was I interested? The reason why I didn't take that, and I was on my way at that point, trying to, make my way out to become an entrepreneur. So I said, you know what, let me, look at this, because this could be, they're putting up whatever, this is a good opportunity. Needless to say, it turned out that it wasn't as good of an opportunity that I thought, because you always want to have someone look over and that knows a business that you're trying to do,
Right.
give you some advice that you trust. And I had lawyers looked over the paperwork and they say, you know what? You are going to be, the head, blah, 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 but you're really going to be only a glorified manager, because the way this deal is set up, the sweat equity type thing that you're doing is like, this ain't gonna work in your favor after so many years. You're really not the franchisee. So I moved away from that, and I just kind of researched what other franchises would work for me. And I said, I wanted to move totally away from food, because food is 24/7. That is a huge commitment. All businesses are a huge commitment. That's a commitment. So, someone told me you might want to look at UPS, operations and stuff like that. So I did it. It was on the top 10 franchise list. I went and spoke to some franchisees, and we knew a person that was kind of like a bigwig in the corporate portion of UPS, and I liked what they said, and that's how I wound up doing that. And then I got to set it where I didn't have to work on Sundays, So with all of that said, that's kind of how I flowed. It was just, one thing, and I took my time. I even looked at Subway. I got approved to do that. However, I didn't like the exclusivity rights, because someone could actually put one right next door to you. It's like, okay, so I didn't want to do that. But here I am.
I didn't know that with Subway.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they are now. I went and took the test. They said that I aced it or whatever, that they wanted me as a franchisee, but I was like, I don't know. And even where I am now with the UPS store, there's one on my block. It closed about, I think, 2 years ago, but there was one right around the corner.
Right.
That's a problem to me.
So are you looking to expand with your UPS, franchisees? Are you looking to expand that industry?
I have been asked. Actually, I got asked maybe a year or two after I opened. I've been there. I've had it for 8 years. No, I don't know. I mean,
I feel you.
I want to, what? In this portion of my life, I'm looking to do stuff that I like, and I'm not saying that I don't like it, because it's good, or whatever. But I've always been a fashion person. I'm writing, those are the things that I love. I want to do what I love, not what I like.
Right.